You're on the phone with Judge Karen Gauff on the Midnight Hour radio show, a place where stars call home. Judge Karen Gauff of the Los Angeles Superior Court. What inspired you, or who inspired you to become a judge on the Los Angeles Superior Court? Did you have any heroes or people that you looked up to while growing up?
Well, let me just answer that in two ways. I sort of had life experiences that placed me in places where I saw a judge, and that inspired me to start thinking about becoming that person, only because I knew as a young child that I was a control freak. And so one of the things, being the youngest of seven and everybody telling me what to do, I knew it was important for me to one day have a position where I could control some things. And when I used to go to court with my mother, with my brothers in juvenile court, I would always observe the judge that was there and realize that person was a person who had some of those characteristics that I thought I wanted one day. So that was sort of, even though it was a negative situation and we had to go to court and my brothers were in and out of jail, that was an inspiration that I took from that. But there were also some people actually in my life. When I was 14 years old, a family took me in, and that family, and I talk about this in my book, Courting the Chance, that family that took me in, basically it was a family that attended my church, that I had a need, and I originally just started cleaning their house and ended up staying with them, and my mother ended up agreeing for me to stay with them, and later saying that I had been kidnapped or brainwashed. I go through this whole story in my book, and as a result of that experience, I had to go to court, and I had to really legally ask the judge to terminate my mother's maternal rights and allow me to divorce my parents. And I asked the judge to place me in foster care, which the judge honored my request, and as a result, the judge sent me to this family to take care of me. And in that family, they had a daughter who was in law school at the time. And she was basically part of my inspiration. She basically really focused me on my gifts and talents, one being my big mouth, and how to use that in a positive way to help people. So that started me on this road of becoming an attorney, which I had to do at least 10 years before I became a judge. And in honing those skills as an attorney, I started recognizing that as an attorney, you have to pick a side. And I ended up having situations in my life where sometimes I was on the defense and other times I was on the prosecution side. And I realized that there was some value in being the one to look at both sides and make a decision about the case. And that started focusing me on moving toward the bench to become a judge. And then God brought other people along my path, which I talk about in the book as well.
You're on the phone with Judge Karen Gauff of the Los Angeles Superior Court on the Midnight Hour radio show, talking to 50 million plus people. Now, Judge Karen Gauff, in your book, you discuss how your book can help people overcome obstacles in life and encourage them to be able to accomplish things. Can you tell us about that?
Yes, I basically discussed them from my own experience. One, having a mother who battled mental illness, living in a household where violence was prevalent, actually, being in a situation where I had to battle depression and hopelessness, and where I was taught to steal at a young age, taught how to set up accidents to sue people. So I was actually trained to do all these things at a young age, and it kept, in one way or another, putting me in and out of the courtroom. And somehow, along the way, God used that to start focusing me on seeing where I could actually affect other people's lives and turn that around into a positive situation. And that's what Courting with Chance is about, using all of those ugly, deplorable, even incest, lots of different situations where mother's boyfriends violated me and my sisters, using those situations to share and help people understand, one, that it's not their shame that somebody put on them when they were victimized, and how to put shame to shame by literally exposing it and showing somebody else how to not only survive being a victim, but to triumph over victimization and move to victory.
You're on the phone with Judge Karen Gauff on the Midnight Hour radio show, a place where stars call home. Now, Karen, a judge on the Los Angeles Superior Court, I read that you give a lot back to your community. Tell us in some of the ways that you give back to your community.
Well, community has always been a big thing to me because as a youngster, somebody gave back to me. So one of the ways I started, even before I became a judge, was I started a free legal clinic at my church, the Philadelphia AME, and here located in the Compton area, which is where I sit as a judge. I actually started that free legal clinic and supervised it for 4 years before I became a judge, and then other volunteers that I had became the supervisors because I could no longer run it once I became a judge. But mentoring has always been important to me because I've always recognized the value of pouring into someone else's life. So mentoring has been my lifeline, and I do that. I do that for attorneys. I mentor law students. I mentor high school and juvenile delinquents. I actually participate in the Compton High School Teen Court program and our interchange program with the court. I supervise that. And any other way, I really work hard in my church, to help the young people move to the next level in their lives. So any way that I can find to give back, I try and do that. It really is a how-to manual. It's a how-to manual, how to get from, say, point A to point L or point, R. It doesn't get you all the way to Z because you have to take on whatever life experiences you've had and use the examples that I have in the book to get you to the next level. But it really is about finding ways to deal with those things that made you shameful as a child that has followed people into their adulthood. It really is finding ways to deal with any other crisis that maybe your parents dealt with, or you had a family member that battled depression or battled mental illness. Maybe there was some hopelessness because, every time you went to go get a job, your background followed you. Maybe it was hopelessness because you got divorced. Maybe it was hopelessness because you've lost a child. I mean, all of these things are life crises, and if you learn how to move past them with time, you can help somebody else. It's throwing a lifeline to somebody else that's going to bring more value to whatever the crisis was than it is for us to just waddle in the crisis. So really, Courting with Chance is learning the power of forgiveness, the power of perseverance. And for me personally, it was learning the power of the name of Jesus that affected my life most. Well, it was the most important thing along my path, and that's what made writing this book really all about, because I knew that the conversations that I was going to start as a result of writing this book was going to affect everyday people. And that's what I've heard from people who have read my book. I've heard from people who have covered up, their trauma as children and never knew how to deal with it and how that affected their marriages along the way. I've heard, from people who were divorced or who, have had these kind of situations that for some people are every day. We learn how to just move past them. For other people, it stops them in their tracks. So Courting with Chance is learning how to have these difficult conversations, putting shame to shame, so you can move forward in your life and not only survive, recognize you survived it, but also triumph, get victory in that situation by using that situation to open your mouth and start the conversation to help somebody else, because it makes it easier when we think that we're by ourselves with it. It makes it easier to keep it hush-hush. But once you start talking about it, you can realize you can affect the lives of others, and you can help others release whatever that shame is that they're holding. So God in my life, the power of Jesus, is the biggest power in my life, and I use that power source every day, because not only do I recognize if I wake up with breath in my body that there's a purpose, but I recognize I have to exercise that purpose by giving into the lives of others.
You're on the phone with Judge Karen Gauff on the Midnight Hour radio show, a place where stars call home. Now, in closing, Karen, Judge Karen Gauff of the Los Angeles Superior Court, what would you like people to know about Karen Gauff?
My book is on Amazon.com. It's in print. It's also in Kindle. format, and they can write to me on Facebook at Courting with Chance and on Twitter at #CourtingWithChance. And again, my book is available. I'm also doing some book discussions around town, and for anyone who, has a group of 10 people who want to discuss once they've read the book, I'd be more than happy to make arrangements with them to come and sit and have discussions if they have questions about my experience or how my experience affects their experiences and how similarities and differences that we have. So there are lots of different expressions that this book has brought about in starting the conversation. And I'm just grateful for this opportunity. So, yes, Amazon.com, and it's available both in print on Kindle. Soon it will be available audio and in Espanol.
We want to thank Judge Karen Gauff, author of the new book, Courting with Chance, Reconciling Memoirs, for coming on the Midnight Hour radio show. A sitting judge, Judge Karen Gauff, on the Los Angeles Superior Court. Thank you for coming on the Midnight Hour radio show. I want to encourage everybody to buy her new book, Courting with Chance, Reconciling Memoirs, at Amazon.com, and it's also available on Amazon Kindle. Thank you, Judge Karen Gauff.